Hi, welcome back. Okay, today we're going to do chapter 2 in the book, Tales from the House of Judah. As you may recall from last time, I kind of gave you a little introduction on how we found this little location. Uh, it, I wouldn't call it supernaturally, but I would say it was a divine encounter. As I mentioned, Ecclesiastes 3 says that there's an appointed time for everything in our life, whether it's the day we're born, the day we die, for every purpose under heaven. And that was clearly what was happening back in this time. It actually was 1995 when we found the store. We moved to Phoenix in 87, but we moved to the Superstition Mountains in 1995. So let's continue with the story. Tales from the House of Judah, my supernatural encounters with the kingdom. This chapter is entitled The Garage, the Glory Cloud, and Other Signs and Wonders. Mystical Encounter. A few days later, after I had resigned my position as manager of the bookstore, going into bankruptcy because they just couldn't pay me, I was driving home from the local market. As I approached my driveway, I smelled a strange but very sweet aroma. My first thought was, oh no, the fabric softener leaked. And yet, this tantalizing scent was not at all familiar to me. As the garage door went up and I eased the Buick into its regular space next to my husband Joe's Nissan truck, the haunting fragrance became quite powerful. It was even overwhelming me. I quickly opened the car door before turning off the engine to grab a breath of fresh air. Suddenly, a mist-like vapor came wafting out of a grocery bag. It bubbled up in waves of sweet fragrance so thick I could barely see through it. I stepped from my car to find myself in a fog of swirling crystalline-like particles, encompassing me all about and gaining strength as they were propelled throughout my garage. Needless to say, I was freaking out. I'd never seen anything like this. I ran to the door that led to the kitchen, calling frantically for Joe to come quickly. He was not in the house, so I dared to return to the scene of this strange phenomena. The mystical fog continued to swirl as though dancing through space and time. I heard a whisper in my spirit, "Don't be afraid. Fear not." Wow. So once again, I stepped into this dreamlike vision and found myself dancing to the rhythm of the experience. It's not that I heard music, but there was a rhythm to this whirlwind of glitter and smoke and scents, and it was just surreal and it was supernatural. My head was euphoric from the myriad of sweet aromas swirling around me. I don't know how long I remained in this I called it supranatural state, but eventually the heavenly mist began to fade along with the fragrance. Looking back, I believe this was a harbinger of what was to come, a ministry with biblical aromatherapy, which I have now done for 23 years. I composed myself, grabbed the grocery bags, and went back into the house. Nothing more unusual occurred that day. At the time, we didn't make the connection between the mysterious aromatic visitation, if you will, and the decision that we were about to make. A word comes from the stranger. A week or so later, Joe and I decided to visit a little church in a neighboring community. We were hungry for fellowship. No one knew us, and we sat quietly and reverently soaking in the spirit of the group. In the middle of the pastor's message, he stopped suddenly. He paused. He turned sharply to the left of the pulpit and looked straight at us and said, "You've been presented with a business opportunity. This venture looks like a boondoggle on the surface, and others have counseled you not to do it. don't get involved. But I say to you that God is opening this door and desires you to walk through it. Trust your decision and look not at the flaws. Anchor yourself in the truth of his wisdom and trust him. Yes, above all else, trust him. We sat there in the pew, stunned. The whole church was silent. It's like, what was that? And who was that for? Is he talking to us? Our spirits bore witness with his word from a stranger. We knew exactly what he was talking about. But then again, are there really any strangers in the kingdom? We went home from that little country church full of more questions, but with a newfound peace that wasn't there before. Deja vu. It was time to meet with the sisters again to discuss options. There wasn't a lot of wiggle room for negotiations because the store was on the verge of bankruptcy. We sat down at a table across from each other, and upon opening my folder which held the proposal they gave me, a whiff of that same aromatic fog from the garage encounter that day burst forth, and everyone at the table smelled it. They knew something was up. They were stunned at its presence. A tremendous warmth encompassed me. I had an inner knowing that indeed this was God's plan for us. And so we signed the contract and became the new owners of the little Christian bookstore. We had no real idea what we were going to do. It didn't matter because God had a plan. The plan. After completing the business transaction, paying off the debts, and placing our first order to restock the nearly empty shelves, Joe and I developed a theme for the new store, a kingdom brand, if you will, that would set us apart from all other Christian bookstores in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. At that time, back in the 90s, Christian bookstores were very popular. And by the way, how did we manage to pull out this financial coup? This would be insane. We were planning to retire, working toward, retirement. We cashed out our IRAs, our 401k plans, our savings. We sold things to pay cash for this mess that God was telling us to indulge or engage with. So we were broke by the time we got this thing going. Our kingdom brand that would set us apart from all of the bookstores, well, our hearts had been moving in the direction of what I would call being Gentile by birth, but Jew by spiritual rebirth. Somehow we would share the gospel of the kingdom with Jewish people. There were over 100,000 Jews living in the Phoenix area at that time. Now, I think that has grown considerably since then. After all, Phoenix numbered, at that time, Phoenix numbered almost 2 million people. Today, it numbers 7 million. So again, how many Jews are out there? But this was our calling, to become the Gentile who would provoke the Jew to jealousy through this little store. And thus was born the House of Judah bookstore in Mesa, Arizona. That was the name that the Lord gave us, the House of Judah. Judah is Hebrew for praise. And I had been a praise leader many times over and a psalmist. And so for me, it was the house of praise. Our hearts were full of joy and brimming with hope for the future, where God ordained this adventure for us, but we had no idea where he was going to take us. And there were storms up ahead. To be continued. Now, if you'd like to have this book for yourself, please go to my bookstore, essentialnews.com, and you can order it there. Essentialnews.com. I also have it in the ebook form if you would like that. But next time, we're going to continue venturing into the kingdom through my own experiences, and we are going to have some supernatural encounters, including down the road, we're going to have a chapter on UFOs that came to visit the house of Judah. Until then, be blessed, walk in faith, seek Him first, the kingdom and His righteousness, and then all of these things will be added unto you. Shalom.